Touchdown, Notre Dame!
Pac-12 today, Jeff Schwartz and Mike Yam. Welcome to the program for the first time. Tom Loy, Notre Dame insider, 247 Sports, also for CBS Sports, at Tom Loy 247. Tom, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
So give our listeners a general overview of Notre Dame if they haven't seen them play. I think a lot of people probably took a peek at them against Georgia, tough opponent obviously, but if you haven't taken a peek at Notre Dame this year, what are they doing well and what do they need to work on?
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't watch that Georgia game, you missed on a great one. Just to put it plainly, I think that Notre Dame team left a lot on the table, and they could have beat Georgia in Athens that night. So that's how good I really think this team is. As a whole, quarterback Ian Book, impressed with him. I don't know if he's necessarily played as well as he or anybody is expected heading into this year after taking over for Brandon Wimbush last year and leading them to an undefeated season. But he's starting to find his stride. And I know we're talking Bowling Green last week, but I think he really turned the corner, and I expect him to play well this weekend and moving forward. He just seems to have that confidence back that I think he lost some against Clemson in the playoff last year. But they get Jafar Armstrong back this weekend. That's a nice boost at running back. Tony Jones Jr. has been carrying the load for the most part and doing a formidable job, but Armstrong is kind of that home run threat that they've been lacking. They got a future NFL guy in Chase Claypool on the outside. Cole Kmet at tight end, I think, is one of the best in the country. Defensively, they're stout in the secondary. They got some really good safeties. Cornerback play has been solid, nothing spectacular. Linebacker has been okay. Defensive line's great. They have NFL guys all over the place, like Khalid Kareem, Julian Aquara. So all in all, and for surprisingly to mention, a true freshman, Kyle Hamilton at safety is going to be one to watch. So all in all, it's a loaded team across the board. Notre Dame's recruited at a very high level, where normally I think that USC has the edge with the athletes. That's been just the way it's been for years. I think it's a much more even matchup this weekend.
It's interesting you bring that up because Jeff and I were talking a little bit about the personnel on both of these teams and the amount of NFL talent. And the reality is you might even lean towards Notre Dame right now on Sunday players compared to SC's roster. But you touched on the defense there. How much conversation is there about what SC is doing offensively that can challenge this Notre Dame defense? We've talked about this error rate and how difficult it can be to prepare for, but couple the system with NFL talent at the wide receiver spot. How much of a concern is that right now for the Irish?
Oh, that's definitely a concern. When you have guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Michael Pittman, Tyler Vaughn, like you said, NFL guys all over the place, that's going to be the big thing for this Notre Dame defense. They're going to have to get to the quarterback using those, like I said, NFL guys in Kareem and Aquara, and it's going to be all on the secondary. They're going to have to contain them because that is a loaded trio, no question about it. So it's going to fall on the safeties, Alohi Gilman, Jalen Elliott, and true freshman Kyle Hamilton. And Troy Pride may need to play his best game ever at cornerback. Tariq Bracy, a California kid up near the San Diego area, he's going to have to step up big. They don't have Sean Crawford, who's injured, and he'll be back for the Michigan game, but that's a tough blow. So they're going to have to pressure the quarterback, force Keaton Slovis into some mistakes because if you give him some time, he's gonna do well, especially with those guys who can outjump most guys and Amon-Ra St. Brown over the middle. I mean, they're loaded offensively, so you got to get after Slovis.
Notre Dame has done a fabulous job this year at limiting explosive plays. Is that because their secondary, their pass rush, and they just not played teams that could get them over the top? What is it about their defense that has really had this effect on the offenses?
Yeah, I think it all starts with defensive coordinator Clark Lee, who I think is genuinely one of the best in the country at what he does. I mean, they're not going to be they won't be unprepared this weekend, no question about it. So these guys are going to be ready. But yeah, not being able to give up the big play is it's the secondary's key, but really it's that defensive line. And they did just suffer a tough loss with Dalen Hayes, and he's going to miss the remainder of the year and come back next year. But he was really, really turning the corner and pushing Aquara and Kareem. But those guys, man, they are phenomenal talents, and you'll see it Saturday night. These guys have no trouble getting to the quarterback. They're just nasty. Defensive line coach Mike Elson does a phenomenal job. Jameer Jones stepping in for Dalen Hayes, who's out. So they're like I said, NFL talent all over the board. I think the linebackers are actually playing better than expected. Losing Drew Tranquill and Tavon Coney last year there was a lot of concern there, but they've stepped up, and this defense is going to be ready to roll Saturday night.
When Jeff had made reference to the Georgia matchup, is there something that we learned about the Irish in terms of recipe? I mean, clearly they're a loaded team, right? But like they're not undefeated. So is there something you could take away from the game plan that Georgia implemented that might be somewhat of a blueprint, not only for SC but any of these talented teams that they play the rest of the season?
I don't know if it's necessarily a blueprint, but I just think that Georgia's one of those few teams that just played a little bit better and more sound that night. I mean, if you play 10 times those two teams, I think it's going to be close to a 5-5, 6-4, maybe in Georgia's favor. But I just think Notre Dame played well enough to win that game, and they just left too many plays out there. Didn't make the plays down the stretch. There was the one, not to get too detailed, but there was the one blitz from Kyle Hamilton, who's a 6'3", almost 6'4" safety, and he just missed tipping the ball, which, who knows, could have batted up in the air. It ends up being a touchdown pass for Georgia, which ended up being the difference maker. So it's things like that just the ball bounced their way. I don't necessarily think there's a blueprint necessarily to beating Notre Dame, but they just were better that night, and they made less mistakes, and they just made the timely throws. In the end, Jake Fromm is the real deal at quarterback, and he was essentially the difference maker for Georgia.
Ian Book's the quarterback for the Irish. I don't know if he gets enough respect, not enough respect nationally. The games we most often see him in are the ones against Georgia and Clemson, where he's not as good, but I feel like the rest of the time he's a very good quarterback. What's your assessment of Ian Book, the quarterback for the Irish?
I'm a big fan of Ian Book, and I've been that way since he was in high school. I thought he was extremely underrated and under-recruited. He was committed to Washington before flipping to Notre Dame. And, he's playing well this year. He's completing 65% of his passes, 13 TDs, 2 picks. He's doing well. I mean, he's not lighting the world on fire, but, last week he threw 5 touchdowns against Bowling Green in the game that I thought was finally the bounce-back moment, like I mentioned, since that loss to Clemson. So it's all about kind of keeping that ball rolling and getting things going, because if he takes another step back, I mean, there's already some chatter about people calling for Phil Dracovic, the backup quarterback who's a tremendous athlete, can run. But I think Ian Book's the guy that can take this team, get them to 11-1, be in the playoff hunt down the stretch. And like I said, when we were talking about keys to the game earlier this week at 247sports.com and irishillustrated.com, Ian Book's going to be the reason that they're going to win this game. I think the defense is going to be key, but Ian's going to need to play well, because there's a chance USC can put up some points. It's time for Ian Book to really put this thing on his shoulders and continue the momentum that he started last week.
The buzz around this game, I know it maybe I don't know, you tell me. I would say, because I think most people would pick the Irish in this one, and SC doesn't come in as this, a top 25 opponent that's got 1 loss. They got 2 already this season. Maybe it doesn't have the same type of appeal, but just the significance around this matchup. Does it feel different, or does it feel like a classic Notre Dame USC game?
So when USC's down, all the Notre Dame fans are kind of freaking out. They're going to think that, all right, this is going to be the team. They're going to come in. They're going to save Clay Helton's job. They're just going to look like a USC team who will play outstanding on both sides of the ball and pull off the upset inside Notre Dame Stadium. If USC was playing really well and so was Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame fans would be even more confident. They just feel like this is going to be an upset. For me, I have Notre Dame winning 41-20. I just feel like they're just too good across the board. I think there's going to be some flashes from USC, but if you get them down early, I just don't see USC being able to get it done. In the end, I think Clark Lee will have his defense prepared. So all in all, I mean, it's still got the buzz. It's still got the excitement. I'm from California, so I know all about the program. I know the excitement that this rivalry, causes and creates. So I just got a feeling that come halftime, I think it's going to be pretty well known that this is Notre Dame's game.
Looking at Notre Dame's offensive line, how are they able to just routinely get guys every year? Is it becoming offensive line in college football?
I mean, an argument could be made. You look at Quentin Nelson in the NFL, Mike McGlinchey, Ronnie Stanley. I mean, they're all over the place, Zach Martin, and they're all playing at such a high level. I was talking earlier today, actually, with my dad about how I'm not sure I would take anybody over Quentin Nelson right now in a redraft that year. So he's just a monster. But Harry Hiestand is coaching for the Chicago Bears right now. He was a huge reason. He was a tremendous recruiter. He was very simple. Either you want to come play for me and do what these other guys did, or go play somewhere else. He wasn't big into flash. I think Jeff Quinn is a much more flashy, excitable, really get after it recruiter for Notre Dame, the current offensive line coach. But Harry Hiestand did a great job of setting things up, and I think Jeff Quinn's picked it up because he's recruiting at a very high level, and this offensive line group is going to be really, really good for years to come.
You still look at this the way most do, and that's a Notre Dame win?
I do. I don't see it. I'm not going to say that I don't see it being close, but I do have them covering. It's just going to be really tough for them to keep Slovis off the ground and to make enough plays. If Ian Book doesn't play well, it's not going to be a great night for him. That would be a long night for Notre Dame if he doesn't play well. I just think all in all, top to bottom, I have full confidence in Ian Book. I think he's going to be the difference maker. And I think, like I said, they win 41-20.
Well, 41-20 would be covering that 10.5. So that'd be a tough loss for USC. Tom, we appreciate you joining us. Enjoy the game tomorrow, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.